Welcome to RUMC Connections. Welcome to RUMC Connections. My name is Meredith Gaskins, and I'm joined today by Ileana Acosta, a licensed mental health counselor and credentialed alcohol and substance abuse counselor, who's the program manager of the Adult and Adolescent Substance Abuse Programs at RUMC, along with William Bellick, a licensed clinical social worker and therapist from RUMC's Gambler Treatment Program. So welcome, and thank you for joining me today.
It's nice to be here.
Yes. Through RUMC Connections, you will meet the fantastic doctors, nurses, and medical professionals that make our hospital thrive. We'll provide useful information about your own health and explore the latest medical news and hopefully get you answers to some of your own health-related questions. So today we are back with Ileana. Last week we spoke about addiction services. Today we are speaking about the Gamblers Treatment Program. The Gamblers Treatment Program is also located at 1130 South Avenue in Staten Island, New York, and has been providing outpatient treatment to New Yorkers struggling with problem gambling since 1982. RUMC has the longest-standing outpatient gambling treatment program in New York State, and the program offers clients comprehensive therapeutic services to gamblers 16 years of age and older, both in person and via telehealth, including psychiatric assessment, individual, marital, and family therapy, medication management, and crisis intervention. So welcome once again. Thank you for joining me. William Bellick is a licensed clinical social worker and received his MSW in NYU School of Social Work and Masters of Arts in Behavioral Science. William has been a therapist for the Gamblers Treatment Program for the past 20 years, working with individuals, families, and couples affected by gambling disorder. So please tell us about the Gamblers Treatment Program.
Okay. Well, it's nice to be here.
Yes.
Like you had stated earlier, we've been with the longest-standing Gamblers Treatment Center. We provide individual therapy, family counseling, couples counseling to individuals affected by gambling disorder, as well as their significant others. And that's an important component to our program as well, is involving the family in some capacity, because for people with gambling problems who are diagnosed with gambling disorder, it really does have an extreme ripple effect in all interpersonal relationships in their lives.
Of course. I can imagine that it's absolutely needed to have support for the families as well. Now, can you walk me through the different forms of gambling?
Sure. So 80% of Americans currently gamble. 75% of college students gamble, according to recent Pew Research Center statistics. So we kind of categorize gambling in terms of more significant forms like casino gambling, blackjack, card games, poker, those types of things, roulette, then sports gambling, which can encompass gambling on football, all the major sports. We have also horse betting as well, racetracks. Then we have more softer forms of gambling like office pools, lottery at or the raffle at a fair, and then lottery games in general, which are very vast now. So lottery games can range from quick draw, which is a rapid game which goes off every 4 minutes. And then you have scratch-off tickets that can range from anywhere from $1 to $30.
Okay. Yeah, no, I can imagine there's a very wide array. And so what would you say would be some of the warning signs that would help identify a gambling problem?
So we kind of the way gambling has been categorized in terms of gamblers, there's social gamblers, people who, occasionally may go to Atlantic City a couple of times a year. Then we have recreational gamblers who maybe have more destinations. Maybe they'll fly to the Bahamas and go to a casino there or something along those lines. And you have more problem gamblers and then compulsive gamblers, which would have gambling disorder. So those warning signs are often like chasing gambling losses, gambling with increased amounts, financial losses due to gambling, relationship problems due to gambling, jeopardizing a relationship because due to gambling, spending the entire bank account within a marital relationship, or extracting all your 401k without your spouse's knowledge, those things. And we see those things that are quite commonplace in the clinic.
Okay. And what got you interested in this program?
That's a great question. I was really interested in the research that was attached to gambling, and I became acquainted with the program manager and director, Don Toms and Beth Schwartz, and then I kind of just gravitated into the field because I thought it was sort of a young, burgeoning field. So
Okay.
And one of the things that's been fascinating for me over the last 20 years is there's probably less knowledge now about the dangers of gambling than ever before, which is fascinating. Not exactly what I anticipated, because of the specific forms of gambling have grown exponentially.
Well, I'm sure with the online gambling, especially in New York, it was passed in January of 2022, right?
2018 in New Jersey.
Okay.
So that's where Staten Island has an interesting demographic because it's so close to New Jersey. So we, just in the last, decade or so, we see more an increase in urban casinos, which, casinos used to be a destination.
Yes.
You go to Las Vegas, you go to Atlantic City. Now you have, and they'd often have hotels attached to it.
Yeah.
Now we see more urban casinos in New York, Philadelphia, Boston, where people can easily travel. The Queens Casino is the Resorts World is the sixth highest grossing casino in the nation right now. So Staten Island is unique in its position. So when sports gambling first became legal in New Jersey, people would just travel right over the bridge. And many of the sports gambling apps also have casino games attached to it. So you could literally be driving over the outer bridge and it would ping your phone that you'd be able to start gambling. So many of our clients, we started seeing
even before
problems.
before it became legal in New York, since we are so close to Jersey, it was problematic.
Okay.
And then the floodgates just opened in 2022, as you mentioned, when online sports betting became legal in New York.
And that's just something that I'm sure could just spiral out of control because it's something that you can do in the comfort of your own home and wherever you are.
24 hours a day,
your
7 days a
phone,
week.
your computer. It's just something that's always accessible. So I can imagine that can take a gambling addiction and just completely spin it out of control because you're always going to have internet wherever you go.
Exactly.
And will you have like some of the numbers too of after it became legal, how many bets were
skyrocket?
reached, how many
it's
people
staggering.
downloaded the apps.
So 3.8 million unique players just in New York, 1.2 billion bets, and New Yorkers have waged over 16 billion on mobile sports betting. Not that was last year, so we're still gathering information this year.
But I mean, the betting has become out of control, hasn't it? Even whether you think a player is gonna wear a certain color, like do their hair. It's just
that's something that we were just talking about. Well, that even the betting, the pitch, are they, what pitch are they gonna throw?
Yeah.
Absolutely. So that's what's really causing researchers concern and treatment providers as well, because it's called micro betting.
Okay.
So you have multiple bets within one sequence of a particular game. So Eliana is correct in terms of the pitch. You can gamble on how fast the next pitch will be. Will it be put into play?
Yeah.
Will it go for a single, double, triple, or a home run?
Okay.
So theoretically, if there are 150 pitches in a game, you could have
so many bets.
Yeah, just in one particular game.
And to lure people into it too, they have promotions too, where they actually, will promote giving, free bets to sign up. So this is just another strategy, I think, just to lure people into gambling.
Absolutely. That's an excellent point. So you have number of bets are free. You can have $200 for free,
Right.
These types of things.
Yeah.
It's
that-
not really $200. It's $200 worth of bets made.
to entice you in,
Yeah.
of course. Now, would you see with these gambling addictions, do you see other co-occurring issues as well? What are some things that you see when
That's what
someone
makes
comes to the program?
the treatment challenging is to sort of decipher when individuals first come in for assessment was the comorbidities, co-occurring disorders, anxiety disorders, depressive disorders, substance abuse disorders, quite common, including obviously alcohol.
Okay.
You have an alcohol use disorder or a history, it increases your likelihood of having a gambling problem by 50%.
Wow.
So it's pretty significant. We tried to do our best to discern whether the people are gambling as a result of the depression and to escape some feelings, because that's quite common as well, and it's one of the symptoms of gambling disorder, or whether a condition emerged as a result of the gambling.
The losses that they've experienced, and now they have extreme depression because of all the money that they've lost.
Of course.
So we see folks that average debt is in tens of thousands of dollars. It's understandable that they would have some mood-related issues or anxiety
100%.
Presented.
And also, too, you mentioned it earlier, too, that we treat significant others. And
Yes.
I know that just the other day we had a father, come into the clinic very upset because his son was taking money, lying, and he really didn't know what to do because the son wasn't ready yet at that point to get into treatment. So one of the great aspects of the program is that we do treat significant others, parents, spouses that need help with navigating that situation, dealing, and just providing psychoeducation on how to deal with it.
Okay.
Yeah.
And when somebody is in the program or their family, how frequently do they come?
It's usually once a week, twice a week.
Okay.
We do encourage participation in like Gamblers Anonymous and self-help as well.
Okay, so is it ever done in the Gamblers Treatment Program in a group setting, or is it one-on-one, individual?
We've implemented short-term groups that are focused on debt management, restoration of the impact of gambling on self-esteem or reputation, those types of things.
Okay.
But usually Gamblers Anonymous, we have a really good working relationship with them. And that's kind of what makes our program a bit unique, is that long-term facilitated relationship.
Of course. And how long will people typically stay in the program? Is there an average amount of time, or
2 years?
2 years?
Yeah.
And then
3 years.
The success rate is pretty good after that?
I would like to think so.
Okay.
Yeah. Well, I think it's multifaceted. So the first year is all about mobilizing one's energy to manage this problem.
Yes.
And to accept the losses. And then the second year is really about kind of dealing with all of, planning the ramifications and keeping, a steady pace within the recovery process.
That makes sense. And so what is the referral process like to get into the program?
It's pretty streamlined. We get a lot from the website, actually,
Okay.
from the RUMC website.
Yeah.
New York Helpline also refers folks to us.
Oh, that's great.
And then once you have the number and are interested, you usually get one of us on the phone. We do a quick application process and set up an appointment. We try to do it as quickly as possible within a week's time. Due to the impulsivity that's associated with gamblers, we want to get them
Get them
help
while they're
as soon as
interested, of
possible. Yeah.
course. Okay. And what trends are you noticing now?
Well, the sports betting is really taken off.
Yeah.
It was interesting once sports betting became legal in New Jersey, many of the teams, professional sports teams, were against sports betting. Now they've partnered with the gambling industry. So it's really about face. It's quite befuddling, actually.
That is.
It's just watching a sports game can be very charged now if you're a compulsive gambler. You're
course.
subjected, as we all are, to ubiquitous ads about gambling everywhere we go. FanDuel, DraftKings encompass about 70% of the market for sports gambling.
Yeah, it's definitely something that's, certainly growing over time and especially with the internet. So, okay, so somebody commits to the program. What can they expect from their first visit? They come in, who are they meeting with? Is it a mental health counselor? What does the process
It
look
would be
like?
one of us,
Okay.
one of the direct treatment team. So, and that really helps in the engagement process, I think,
Yeah.
for this particular group of individuals. So we try to make a connection right away, try to work through some of the problems that they may be having about ways that they might be thinking about how to pay off their debt, in terms of, getting some money from family members, those types of things to relieve the debt, when often that just leads to a continuance of the problem.
Of course. And then if you do see, say, a prevalence of alcohol use from the gambling, do they stay within the center and can they?
Well, they can actually
Receive treatment?
it's interesting because so the Gamblers Treatment Program is part of also the Silverstein Outpatient Clinic. So you may
Okay.
have someone, for example, who is seeing Will to address their gambling issue.
Yes.
And also seeing one of the clinicians in the Silverstein Substance Use Disorder Clinic
Okay.
to address their alcohol use or whatever drug they may be using in combination with their gambling. So, and we're located in the same building.
Yeah, it's perfect that
Yeah,
it's all right
so-
there so they could get all of the services in one
place.
location. That makes sense. Do you ever make referrals to additional specialized community resources?
Other than Gamblers Anonymous and that encouragement, we have really, if people have more pervasive mental health issues, we can take care of that as well. We have clinics downstairs, the St. George Clinic. We have a lot of options. That's what makes the consolidation of treatment really at 1130 South really pretty vital
Yeah.
for clients' needs.
Okay. If somebody is coming to the program, it's up to their willingness whether they want to get their family involved. And then would you sort of do like a group session with them or would you meet?
That's a great question. Yeah, so it's really based on what the client's needs are and what they want. So we can do some strong encouraging about getting the family members involved. Simply because they're affected as well. So that it may take some time for that to be achieved once the individual is really engaged in recovery.
Okay. Then you could do a little bit
yeah.
more of a therapy between.
Yeah, it's sort of for them making that commitment to change. And I think if people do engage in that process, then they want to naturally bring in their family to help them and thus help themselves as well.
What does the age range look like for people coming to the clinic? Is it kind of all over the place now with the internet, or is it one specific range that you tend to?
I think it's good to bring up the point that you mentioned about like the demographics and what generally they tend to gamble in depending on their demographic.
Yeah. So that's changed quite a bit. I said before 75% of college students. So we see research has identified particular vulnerability within populations of really 18 to 30. You can really extend that to 35, really.
Okay.
So much of the socialization for those that particular group of individuals, may entail going to a sports bar, watching a game with their friends. What's happened with the sports gambling apps, it's removed the sort of the mystique or the trepidation about gambling with a bookie. So it's easily downloaded in moments, and you can begin gambling in a very expedient manner. It's socially reinforced in ways that I could never really fathom, actually. So years ago, if you were gambling with a bookie, you would tend to keep it to yourself or maybe share it with other people who also were gambling, that you knew were gambling on sports. Now, the conversations are widespread about what the odds are of a particular game, so much so that it's become integrated into the dialogue of the announcers of the game themselves. So they're promoting the gambling televised games. So it's very challenging, I think, for that particular age group.
I can imagine. Yeah, that's not very encouraging for somebody who's in the recovery process to try to watch a game and then, it's it's being promoted right,
Right.
in their
Right.
face.
So if so much of your peer group are gambling, and then you develop a problem, what happens to your peer group?
Because then that
We
isolates
say,
them.
people, places, and things, but right now it's everywhere you turn.
So what do you do? I mean, in a situation like that where they can still be amongst their peers but have control of their addiction?
It's a process of really trial and error, and based
Yeah.
on what sort of pathway the client wants to take, whether they want to take a real significant departure from that lifestyle, which is probably the safest possible course, or try to implement some degree of boundaries
Okay.
regarding conversations about sports gambling, and that's very difficult because it's an admission that there's a problem. Many clients are reluctant to do that. Failure to do that, though, you're constantly fielding questions
Yeah.
about who do you like on today's game and these types of things. So it's setting those boundaries are very, very important.
Okay. Now, you've been doing this for 40 years, you said?
Yeah, I've been working for RUMC. I think this is my 35th year or 36th year.
So in all these years, do you have a most memorable case that stands out to you that was a big turnaround? Or
Yes, I do. I have a client that I often think of that when he first came to the center, he was in an enormous amount of debt. He was suicidal, so we treated him for mood disorder, for depression as well. He was seeing the staff psychiatrist, and he engaged in treatment consistently. He was very conscientious each week, embraced Gamblers Anonymous, made some enormous changes in his life. The most important thing that gamblers will go through early stages is to accept the debt, that the money is gone and it's not coming back. So for many gamblers, that's a charged dynamic because they think with only a couple of bets, they can
Win it
win it back. So that process sometimes is quite lengthy. But he went on to be great, a remarkable success. He owns a number of supermarkets actually now, so he's
Wow.
quite successful. So he completely changed his life around. And having examples like that,
Yeah.
I think, really offer hope to people
absolutely.
struggling.
That has to. And especially with this younger demographic that you're seeing, such a trend in, to hear stories like that, I can imagine it would be tremendously.
Especially when it's integrated into the socialization process for them.
Yes.
It's challenging to be the only person in your peer group to sort of reject the influx of that particular activity that can encompass a great deal of conversations for folks. People like to talk about sports. Now it's not just talking about what team you like. It's about what your bet is for tonight's game.
Yeah. Are there ever any types of medications that could be implemented into this kind of therapy that would help?
Yeah, there's been some medications that have been explored in the past for specific treatments, but it's really along the lines of SSRIs, for mood disorders, depression primarily. There's been some trials years ago about the use of Seroquel, for instance, which is an antipsychotic. Gambling really focuses on the mesolimbic system where the VTA which is the reward center of the brain, through multiple trials where you're deriving pleasure from an activity, you begin to associate and anticipate more and more of that sort of pleasure. So that was some studies that were done, but there's no specific medication that's really utilized for just gambling disorder. It's more the treating the comorbidities and the issues that arise as a result of it.
Gotcha. Okay. And how involved in the clinic are you, Ileana?
So I oversee the clinic,
Okay.
But Will and Beth are the clinicians, so they're in the trenches, really. And Will has just done an excellent job. So I can say that honestly, I don't have to do much because
they're so efficient at what they do.
They're so efficient.
Absolutely. And I'd like to just take the last couple of minutes to get a little personal with you both. it's a lot that you're dealing with on a day-to-day basis. How do you like to decompress? Do you have any hobbies? What do you like to do?
I like to go to the gym, so that's important for me.
Yes.
I think that also just being a mother, I have 2 small kids.
Okay.
My daughter is 10 months old. I have a son who's about to be 4.
Okay.
And so, coming to work and then, going home, and then it's kind of like my 5 to 9 job sort
I'm
of.
in the same boat.
I don't want to call it a job, but it's
Yes.
like I still have more to do, and so it's important for me to self-care, and
Of
this is something
course.
that we talk about with our clients too, that it's so important to do self-care because you feel like you're constantly doing for others. Like we're in the helping profession, so all day long, we're helping others. I go home, I'm tending to my kids, so I need, for my own sanity, I need to take back some time just to take care of myself. So that's something for you asked, what do I do to decompress? I go to the gym.
Me
Get
too.
out of the house. I'm like, it's me time. I need to get out.
Gotcha.
Right, so that's such a great activity, So that's something that we would encourage our clients to do as
Right.
well. We've had some discussions about dialectic behavior therapy, and within that paradigm of treatment, that's one of the things in how to regulate, emotional, emotions, and being able to, have an acceptable outlet is so important.
Yeah, physical activity
Yeah.
is
So
fantastic.
trying new things becomes part of
Yeah.
the treatment, like get a gym.
Right.
Almost anyone can get a gym membership these days. So,
Of course.
And it's like it's a form that you can also it's another thing you can do other than gambling or using.
right, it's a great distraction
Right.
technique. Plus, it's part of it. You engage in a social milieu there. You get familiar with other people who go to the gym. So it serves a lot of functions.
A natural dopamine release.
Exactly.
To give you
Yeah.
another, great
Exactly.
charge, of course.
Yeah.
You had mentioned before we started that you're a professor.
Yeah, so I've been at Kane University now for 21 years in the psychology department. I teach 12 different courses there. I'm teaching psychotherapy and counseling. Next semester, educational psych this semester, as well as psych of aging, which is great because I'm getting older, so it's been a fun class for me to teach.
Very cool.
Yeah,
And-
so I enjoy that. That's my fun.
Yeah.
I also enjoy music.
Music?
Yeah, I play a variety of different instruments, and I'm a big vinyl record collector. So
Oh.
I really enjoy all genres of music.
Yeah, very cool. Very nice. Well, I would like to thank you both for
Yeah,
joining
thanks
me
for having
today.
us. This was
and
fun.
for all that you do to help everybody in our community. And if you are interested in learning more about the Gamblers Treatment Program, people can call 718-876-1285 or 718-818-7024. And like we mentioned before, they can visit the RUMC website, www.rumcsi.org. That about does it for this episode
Thank you
of
so much.
RUMC
Thank you so much for
Connections.
having us.
Of course. Thank you for joining me. I'm Meredith Gaskins. Thank you.